Good evening, Blues. Welcome back to Follow Everton. As you can see, I've still got the grin on my face that I had last night after Everton's convincing victory over Newcastle. How often have we said that? 3-0. The Blues defeating the Magpies at Goodison under the lights. And here we are all ready for the Chelsea game, which is coming around thick and fast. And I am absolutely delighted that we've got a special guest on today to talk all things Chelsea. It's my very good friend, Martin Booth. Martin, how are you?
I'm not so bad, thanks, Steve. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm very well. Yeah, good to see you here. Obviously, Everton v Chelsea, a match that conjures up two teams that basically put their pride on the shirt and they go out with a huge fan base. But obviously, it's been disappointing for Chelsea over recent years. This match comes on the back of a victory, but Goodison hasn't been a good hunting ground for Chelsea. How are you feeling in the wake up for this match?
Not particularly optimistic is the only way to put it. We come into this on the back of an absolutely dreadful performance at Man United on Wednesday night. As you say, the cheers are still echoing around Goodison from your quite excellent win against Newcastle 24 hours ago. So, yes, it would be wrong to characterise me as optimistic in the run-up to this one.
Yeah, and in fact, Everton have won something like 4 of the last 5, but you managed to beat us last year. I think that match was under your ex-captain, top-scoring midfielder Frank Lampard. But before that, Everton had won 4 games in a row at home at Chelsea, and it certainly wasn't a good hunting ground. This match comes obviously probably at the wrong time for you because you're going to be hitting Everton at Goodison, who have kind of almost been galvanized by this 10-point business. Does it concern you the way that Everton have been punished, that Chelsea could end up going down a similar route?
To be honest, no. It's a completely different situation. I know a lot of the reaction in the immediate aftermath of the punishment was, "Oh, look at Man City. Oh, look at Chelsea." We don't know what the charges are going to be. If there's going to be a charge against Chelsea, I'd be a lot more worried if I was a City fan, put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. I think something like 115 different fines. It's going to take them about 10 years to work that one out. Anyway, onwards and upwards. But I can tell you that having watched Everton play recently, they're playing with a lot more confidence. And I think a lot of people are recognizing that. They don't play like a side that's been threatened with relegation. And in fact, Everton, if they'd won the games, if they'd not been docked 10 points, I think that Everton would be now above Chelsea in 10th place. 10th place, that must be feeling a little bit disappointing, but is that the realistic state of where Chelsea are right now?
Right now, it is. And I mean, you were saying about what a bad time Everton have had over the last couple of years. We almost had to remind ourselves that 18 months ago, Chelsea were the reigning champions of Europe. And the extent of the plunge since then, I really struggle to convey how bad Chelsea were last season. Last season was our worst season for 35 years. No doubt at all. The fact we were mathematically safe from relegation on May the 6th. It went that long. As you say, what's happened in the last two and a half decades at Chelsea has been magnificent to watch for those of us who've been there for more decades than I care to share. But the last year and a half, ever since obviously the instability that came along with the club being taken out of Roman Abramovich's control following the invasion of Ukraine, everything right from the top of the club all the way down through the structure, all through the playing squad, everything has been thrown into absolute confusion. And inevitably that's going to have a knock-on effect on the field. And we've seen that. We saw it last season. It's not something that's going to be fixed instantly. It is going to take time. We are going to have games like the other night at United. At the same time, there have been signs this season. We played very well against the Arsenal. We really should have beaten them. Had a cracking 4-4 draw against Manchester City. Now, those are the top two we think are going
that was some match.
And there were definite signs there which were not there last season. At the same time, this is a very, very young squad. And when you have young players, you're not going to get that same sort of iron-hard consistency and know-how. There are going to be days when things go completely wrong, as they did on Wednesday night at Old Trafford.
Yeah, Old Trafford, it didn't go so well. Where do you think it all went wrong for you in midweek?
The great thing about Chelsea is, and you'll see this on Sunday, within a couple of minutes whether they're at it or not. If you look at the players who are in the squad, put it this way: if you put the 11 who started for Chelsea the other night against the 11 who started for Aston Villa, now every fan will tell you no game is ever
Mm.
played on paper. But on paper, the individuals in that team should be a
Mm.
very good side. Now, you saw how well Villa played against Man City. They were magnificent. That's what happens when you get a solid, stable team that know each other, that have got a plan, that have played together for some time. And
Mm.
that's not where Chelsea are. We are nowhere near the sum of our parts. There are some very good individuals right through the squad. There are some places where we're glaringly lacking. So there are going to be times where things come together. Like I say, against City, against Arsenal, we came out and said we've got a team again. At least we've got a team. And then within a couple of weeks, absolutely blew it at Newcastle. Shocking performance at Man United. And it's, as someone said, it's one step forward, three steps back.
Yeah, United obviously came to Goodison, but they weren't amazing, and it makes you wonder, like, what was it? Just very unlucky Everton side that didn't get anything from that game. I mean, we lost the game 3-0, but it was a strange one. Going back to the side that actually played in midweek, how many of these players will likely line up for this match at Goodison on Sunday?
Well, first things first. There's three of that back four playing out of position. Well, two of them. Disasi and Thiago Silva centre backs. Cucurella's not a right back. Colwell's not a left back. So I would suggest that he might move Cucurella over to left back. If Reece James is fit, then Reece James starts at right back, and then maybe it's time for Thiago to have a break, and you put Colwell next to Disasi in the middle. That would be my back four.
And who do you think that Everton need to be watching out for from an attacking point of view in this match?
There's only one name, I'm afraid, and that is Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer has one of the really bright spots of light. If you look down the centre of that side, it's dangerous to look too far ahead in football. But if you look down the centre of that team, there's the beginnings of a spine with Colwell and Badiashile, who I would say has a very strong argument to be in the team. Fernandez and Caicedo, both 22 years old, and Palmer ahead of them. Now that's the spine of the side that you build on. But they're all 20, 21, 22.
Yeah, and of course, team news will come into it as well. It looks like Conor Gallagher is available for selection.
Yeah.
Does he go into your side?
Straight away. He's been. I don't think anyone who saw what happened in the game against Brighton would say that he's the finished article yet. He's still a rough diamond, but he is a diamond, and he gets it. He gives the team energy. He lifts the side. I think you'd have him in between Fernandez and Caicedo. Palmer moves out to the right, and probably Sterling over to the left instead of Mudryk. But again, we don't play this game on paper. But if you looked at especially that sort of back seven plus Palmer up front, you're saying that's the makings of a side. When a team like that plays as badly as they did at United, you start wondering, I'm not going to sit here and criticise Pochettino because he's exactly the sort of manager that we needed. But that's down to a manager to make the team greater than the sum of its parts, which they have on occasions, and most bafflingly in the games against the bigger clubs this season, has actually been achieved. So you asked at the top, what my thoughts are for Sunday. I have no idea. I've got no idea which Chelsea's going to turn up for you.
Is it so inconsistent? I mean, we saw this with Everton in the past. I think this will be a lineup. If we look at this lineup here, I think many Everton fans watching this over the weekend will probably look at this and go, I don't even recognise half of these players. But didn't you have, it wasn't so long ago, 3 buses worth of players? What has happened to the squad for people that have kind of been not really following Chelsea over the last 3-4 months?
Well, let's put it this way. 2021, 2.5 years ago, Chelsea won the Champions League. Just thought I'd mention it again. If you look at the squad from that night...
Yeah, it's amazing to think, though, isn't it? It's staggering to think.
I think so. But if you look at the team that played that night, the squad that played that night, I think out of the 21, 22 players, about 3 or 4 are still at the club. That's the extent of the churn. Now, as you say, that a lot of players have been brought in. Some have been sent out on loan. This isn't an excuse. I know a lot of teams talk about injury lists, but we do have a very long injury list. There are players injured. There are players out on loan. And as you say, there is an unfamiliar look to it. I remember earlier this season, I think we were playing against the Arsenal, and an Arsenal mate of mine texted me from the away end, and he said, I don't recognise half the names on your bench. I said, neither do I. There's a lot of churn, which leads to a lot of inconsistency and instability. And the
Yeah,
only thing that cures that is time. I mean, you said that something that you've seen at Everton. Clearly, something is happening at Everton because I wasn't the only one. Start of the season back in August, I would have said the three to go down were going to be Luton, Sheffield United, Everton. And the
yeah,
way
and I think they've surprised many of our fans. I mean, obviously, we're kind of back in the same position that we kind of expected to be, but Everton have actually put in some really great performances. Not always hit the back of the net in early games. I think that we've had top three of most big chances, and we won 3-0, but it could have been 6-0 if Everton were just a bit more clinical in front of goal.
yeah,
Obviously, Newcastle had other chances. This game for Chelsea comes as part of an action-packed December that's really the case for all clubs. You've got the likes of Wolves away on Christmas Eve. Before that, your next game is going to be at Sheffield United with Sheffield United at home, which you would think is going to be a fairly easy fixture from the way that we've seen Sheffield United to play. But there's no easy game, and I think that means that every game you've got to try and pick up points. One thing I've got from speaking to Chelsea fans is that the expectation is it's lowered, but it's always going to be there, and that definitely puts pressure on you to turn around the situation quicker than I think Everton fans who have an element of patience. They're not expecting us to suddenly go up to 8th or 10th. They realise it's kind of work in progress. Anyway, moving back onto the game and looking at the team news from Everton's point of view, Everton had Seamus Coleman, a club captain, who was bought for obviously £60,000, and he played for much of the game against Newcastle on Thursday. He's going to face a fitness test alongside keeper Jordan Pickford, and the other players who may come back into the fold for Everton are James Garner and Onana, and they've been quite key to the midfield, Martin, but they weren't part of the lineup on Newcastle, and Everton did look fluid. I don't know whether you've seen any of the game, but Everton looked quite solid, both in and out of possession with quite a high press that it wasn't there under Lampard. I don't know. Really, I put it down to better fitness under Dyche. I think Dyche has kind of had them very sleeve rolls up, and it's starting to show. I mean, it's still quite early days. He's not really had that long. If you remember that the last home game against Chelsea for Everton was under Lampard, and so in the turnaround, he's picked up 20 points from 15 games, whereas it was the other way around. It was 15 points from 20 under Lampard. So he's done really well. Looking at it from a Chelsea point of view, who do you see as being like the biggest threat to kind of contain from Everton? What do you need to be looking out for?
I think the great thing about Dyche, as you just said, there's no secret what you get. You're going to get a side that's going to work hard. They're going to play as a team. So rather than pick out individuals, I mean, I've always liked Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I've always thought there's a player in there, but you've just said, as we've said many times this season, and in fairness, Chelsea have been waiting since Diego Costa left in 2017, haven't had a striker. And you do need that guy who sticks the ball in the back of the net 20 times. Even if he doesn't do anything else, he's there to score goals. You to turn all that dominance into goals. So Calvert-Lewin's always a player I look out for. I just think there's a touch of class in there somewhere. But for me, it's the collective press as a whole. You know that Everton are going to get into you, and I will know after 5 minutes if Chelsea are up for it, and if they're going to stand there and go toe to toe and move the ball quickly and be progressive and be ambitious, or if they're going to sit back and basically go on the ropes. As someone said the other night, and they got it absolutely spot on. At the moment, games happen to Chelsea. They're very passive, rather than saying, right, let's get out there and let's try and impose ourselves. So for me, it's the whole team, the whole of Everton I'm worried about, because if they come out and put that kind of pressure on that we know, as you say, Everton can create, then it could be a very long 90 minutes for the away fans.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about Everton playing at Goodison is there's a bit of momentum now, but Everton actually haven't been very good at Goodison. Most of the Follow Everton team have season tickets and weren't actually at the Newcastle game. It's so typical that the one game when most of us weren't at the game, we won. But under the lights, it is something special. But for much of that game, it was goalless, and I was thinking a draw would be a good result. But then Everton kind of found the breakthrough, and I think that they may now be coming into some great form. And this Everton have won something like 8 out of the last 12 games in all competitions, which is pretty decent form for a side that's been battling relegation over the last 2 years. I think you've got to be looking out for McNeil. He possesses a fantastic left foot. He opened the scoring, of course, against Newcastle and also scored at the weekend in Forest. I mean, it's very rare that you would see a week like this, Martin, where Everton pick up 6 points. It feels like this is why I can't wipe the smile off my face. But if we were to get 9 points from this week, I just don't think I would be like a kid in a candy store. I don't think we'd be able to contain me. But I think if Goodison is rocking, as I fully expect it to be, then Chelsea have definitely got their work cut out this weekend. It isn't an easy fixture. But yeah, it would be one where I think both sides will be looking to take something from the game. We do have a few people watching live, and a lot of people watch it over the weekend, to be fair. And we understand that you might be watching this maybe on Saturday afternoon. And if you are, hi, hope you have a great weekend. But there's a few people who are already watching us, with us now. So we're just taking a few of those comments. Chris says, Everton are in a good place, but let's not underestimate the opposition. As a guest says, it looks like Chelsea are really up for it and we better be ready for off. Yeah, I think so. Thanks, Chris. I think, you've got to be up for every game in the Premier League. There's no soft games, I'm looking at Luton Man City and I'm thinking, oh gosh, if Luton play like they did against Arsenal, by the way, this is a 2:00 kickoff, mirroring the Everton game and the Fulham West Ham games that are also on at the same time. I think that Everton will be looking at that result thinking City should put a number past Luton, but we saw how Luton played against Arsenal, and I think there just simply are no easy games. But consistency can be quite key, and I think what we've seen with Everton is that they've had a consistent starting lineup. We've been able to keep so far, and touch wood, some players fit, and Everton don't have a big squad. And this is the thing, Martin, we just haven't had. There was a time not so long ago, like 8-9 months ago, where we would put a team out, we wouldn't have a striker to play. We would have to play a striker out of position, or we would, be trying to find something for Mopé, who just didn't score at all last season for Everton, but yet had to be played as like some sort of auxiliary striker up front on his own, and was just completely lost. But now Everton have not only Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who probably will be set to start, but also this lad, Beto, Martin. I don't know whether you've seen him, but he's got strength. He can hold up the ball. He's kind of similar to Calvert-Lewin, and that's why we've not seen them play together. But certainly somebody that can come in and make a big impact. And credit to Everton for finding him. He's a great scout and another Portuguese player that's come through. I think he's going to be one of the keys to Everton's season here. So on that note, Eugenie, who's one of our regulars, hi there, says he thinks Beto will score again against Chelsea as he did against Newcastle. Well, I wouldn't be surprised, but we don't know whether he will start the game or not. For everyone else who's watching, keep the comments flooding in. We do love talking about football, me and Martin. We're quite well connected. We've known each other for some time. We're both at the moment down south, although I am actually going to the game, Martin. And I'll be sitting in the pad in the lower Bullens with one of our regulars, Jan, who's kindly allowing me to go with him. And the last time I sat there, Martin, Gianfranco Zola played for Chelsea. It was that long ago. I remember seeing it pretty well, although there are a lot of posts in the way back there. I don't know whether you remember back in 1996, Gianfranco Zola, much of the player, but wow, what a talent he was.
Do I remember Gianfranco Zola? Steve, I've been going to Chelsea this is my 54th season. And
I know, I'm being a bit facetious with my comments, but
sorry.
Can you remember the game? Or can you remember much of the kind of 96, 97 era, the end of kind of Zola's reign? I know that you were in what's now known as the Europa League, but a lot of the time then you were playing the Cup Winners' Cup.
Well, Zola arrived in November of 96, and he was so good that he only played half a season that first season, and he was Footballer of the Year at the end of it. He had an extraordinary impact. I mean, it was an era when, we started with Hoddle coming in, bringing Hullet across in 95, and then Vialli and Di Matteo in the summer of 96, and things started to get really, really exciting. Of course, won the Cup in 97, and that was the springboard. But at the heart of it was Zola. And for that 96-97 was a very special season for Chelsea fans of my generation, having watched 25 years of absolutely nothing and suddenly started winning trophies again.
Yeah, and of course you had such a talented side Gianluca Vialli. Mark Hughes, of course, went on to play for Everton. The side is a kind of an embarrassment of talent, really. Di Matteo, do you remember his cup final goal? After how many seconds? You had Dennis Wise, of course, in the midfield then.
42.9 seconds. But I was there. Well, I was there for that one, and I was there 22 years later when Louis Saha broke the record in 2009. And
at Wembley.
I was actually sat in the right.
I was at that game as well. Not great memories, but.
Well, I was sat in front of John Motson because I was with my brother who used to work with Motti, and Motti tapped him on the shoulder and said, "I think that's the fastest goal in the Wembley Cup final." And we're going, "Yes, thanks, John. Yeah, we're very aware." Luckily, it turned out in the end okay for us. But yeah, if we could talk all day about that 96-97 side. That was very special.
It really, you had just an embarrassment of talent if you look back, and Everton, not so much. We go back to 96, of course, Southall was still in goal for Everton. And we are walking down memory lane now when we're talking about the side that included Michael Ball, Richard Dunn, Dave Watson, Gary Speed, Nick Barmby. Duncan Ferguson was up front for Everton during that game. It wasn't great reading for Everton fans. The game obviously was Nick Barmby, who scored a consolation to Dennis Wise as opener from a Mark Hughes assist, and Di Matteo got the second. So Chelsea went out the victors that day. It seems like an awfully long time ago. But anyway, I'll be back in the lower Bullens for that one again. And if I can see between all the obstructed views, then hopefully it's only going to be through an Everton victory. But we will see. I think a lot of our fans do like it when we go back and have a look at these matches from the past. Yeah, it says I love it when the boys Zola comes in off the box. Yeah, of course, the big really thing is hard to not mention it is Lampard. I mean, he nearly took you down. He nearly took both sides down last season.
Yeah, in fact, that win we referred to earlier, the first weekend of the season when Chelsea won up at Goodison when Lampard was your boss, those 3 points turned out to be quite important in the end because there was a time when we, and like I said to you right at the top, it's hard to convey just how bad Chelsea were because people kept saying, "You're Chelsea, you're Chelsea." No, we're not anymore. And we lost twice to Southampton last season were one of the worst Premier League teams I've seen.
Complete loss of identity. I mean, it was kind of crazy to see. And looking at it from our end, we were looking at it thinking, God, he's going to do it to them as well. I mean, we could see what he was doing to us. To be fair, every Evertonian that most Evertonians liked Lampard. Unfortunately, they just think that he was out of his depth. He also had a very difficult job. But then did he go to Chelsea and just pick up another difficult job? Or was he kind of responsible for the reason why they ended up just getting sucked into the bottom half of the table?
From a Chelsea fan's perspective, because of what he did on the pitch, he's always going to be a legend. No one's ever going to boo him. But those last 10 games of last season were excruciating because it was quite clear. And everyone talks about the players we brought in. Trust me, the most important priority in the summer was the ones we shipped out. Half that team obviously didn't want to be there, didn't want to do it. We were talking earlier about consistency of selection. And Cucurella is a guy who's taken quite a bit of stick from some Chelsea fans. I said, hang on, 1 minute he's a left back and a 4. Next minute he's a wing back. Then the weekend after that, he's the left of the back 3, back 5. You can't expect players to produce their best when you just don't know where you're supposed to be standing from game to game. Now, Frank came in, and I think it was just get us a couple of wins and get us across the line, which is what happened.
And just in the nick of time. But it was getting to the stage where if that season had continued, it's just madness how it could have ended up. And you look at it and you just can't fathom how they've ended up being like that. Of course, Frank Lampard didn't have the easiest. I mean, a long line of Everton managers that just kept picking up the mess that had been created from poor signings or signings that didn't happen or happened and then didn't materialize. Some that didn't happen that we've heard of recently. Other famous players to have played for both clubs that most of our fans will remember, of course. Ross Bartley just didn't settle in at all at Chelsea and was a real big player and for Everton, but then just went AWOL, and I think that he lost the fans, and Chelsea, it just didn't happen. But lots of people have respect for Romelu Lukaku, who came from Chelsea and was an absolute outstanding performer for Everton. Of course, he then went back to Chelsea and was awful. So I don't know what happened there, but for Everton, at least, he's still kind of the hero. I think he scored over 50 goals in the league for Everton, which is certainly one of the top scorers. But Calvert-Lewin is now either very close or is just overtaking Lukaku. But why didn't it work out second time round for Romelu? He seems
I'm
to
glad
be on the fringes.
I checked beforehand. There's no swearing on here, Steve, because when you say the name Lukaku, let's try and keep this decent. A lot of people said, look, he scored a load of goals in Italy. Obviously, I spoke to a mate of mine who's Everton fan and said, oh, he's a goal machine. As you just said, he scored loads of goals for Everton. Just didn't do it. It didn't come off. The system that Tuchel was playing, it wasn't easy to be the lone striker, but he made it an awful lot harder. There was that famous occasion where he touched the ball 7 times in 90 minutes away to Crystal Palace. And I remember saying, yeah, but look, the service team's got to be better. And we were playing with a central midfield that just didn't pass the ball forward, just did not pass forward. But then you watched him and he would point and say, put the ball there. And if it wasn't to the millimetre, he wouldn't run for it. He was completely immobile. Now he's gone back to Italy. He's scoring goals with Roma, and people are saying, bring him back, give him another go. I don't think
Is he on loan? Is he, or did he fully transfer over there?
No one's coughed up for him. No, he's on loan back.
But the interesting, this is the thing, is that the interesting thing is, I think a lot of Everton fans would probably have had him back in a heartbeat. I mean, fortunately, we've got Beto, who at least on the recent performances of Lukaku playing for Chelsea looks a lot fitter. But I think it's just that Lukaku bulked up and he just wasn't as mobile as he was when he played for Everton. There's something about it. I don't know if it was an international tournament, but it wasn't so clever for him. But yeah, if you just joined us, hopefully you'll watch back and see our Everton Chelsea preview. We've kind of going around looking at all of the things that have been going on for both clubs. But we're going to take your score predictions now. I'm going to start with you, Martin. It's a hard one to call, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Everton Chelsea on Sunday. This match.
It's a hard one to call. I'm going to go really, really optimistic and really push the boat out and say if everything goes absolutely amazingly well, we might just nick a 2-2 draw. I can't see Chelsea winning this game. It's as simple as that. I can't see it.
Really? Yeah, I mean, it is a hard to call because Everton obviously are not used to playing consecutive home games, but full of confidence in front of the crowd. I think Everton are going to nick this one. I'm going for 1-0. I think it's going to come from a McNeil corner. Actually, the guy can almost score from a corner kick, so that's probably as good. But I don't know whether you saw it, Martin. Everton are applying for NHL license. They had 21 shots on goal against Newcastle, and they actually do look threatening. So the problem was, in the first few games, we were basically playing quite well, but not putting the ball away. And the thing that you've got to watch out now is that I think that the kind of floodgates have opened, per se. Kevin's one of our regulars, says that Everton will do the business against Chelsea. Well, I don't know how I contain myself in 9 points in a week. I think that was like a whole season for us. Chris is, he's kind of with you on the 2-2 draw. McNeil and Garner on the sheet. It's always difficult to predict the scorers, although I have quite a bit of a knack to it, those scorecast ones. There was a time, Martin, when it was so predictable as to who was going to score. It was going to be 1-0 and it was Calvert-Lewin. But if you go back to Everton's, the only season that we qualified for the Champions League, I think it was 2004, we won most games 1-0. That was a very easy game to kind of work out the score prediction from Everton. We're less predictable now, but we're hoping it's a great game. I don't know if it's on TV, but I'll be going. And if you do get to the game, make sure you switch in to Follow Everton straight after. And if you're not, you're watching it on TV. We hope you'll join us. We'll be live post-match. It might not be myself because I'll probably be still trying to recover my own voice from the match. And of course, we'll be reviewing and playing back the match, taking your comments, raw as always, candid. These post-match games, Martin, are always a bit, emotional. Nearly lost my voice last night. But we have some more ambitious Everton fans coming in thinking they're definitely going to win. So the confidence is there. But yeah, join us post-match for Everton v Chelsea. Martin, thank you very much on behalf of the Follow Everton team and for all of our subscribers for joining us with the Chelsea View. It was an absolute pleasure having you today. And for all you watching, all you Blues, have a great weekend. It could be a fantastic December as Everton look for 3 victories in a week. From me, from Follow Everton, thank you and good night.